Well, hello, my name is Shawn and welcome to Hollywood Melanin. How are you
Hey,
today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Your career is so amazing because I feel you have set the bar so high for Black men on television,
Mm.
portraying these very prestigious characters. And of course, on Law and Order, you had, I'm not going to even get into your character on Law and Order, but you have set the bar so high. I feel like you've always kept, you've held your, as far as your skills is concerned as an actor, it's so respected.
That's so nice, Sean. I appreciate that. Thank you. That really means a lot. I mean, as long as I can remember, I've always responded to, even when I was a kid, before I even knew I wanted to be an actor. I think I was always drawn to certain African American actors who I'd see on television who seemed to be different than what I think the stereotypes of just being Black in America would suggest. You know what I mean? And so I was always interested in those men and women who were able to, my influences are, James Earl Jones, Ossie Davis, and
Yep.
maybe even
Yep.
these days a lot of people that many of your viewers and listeners and watchers may not even, whose names they might not even know anymore because they're so young. But I also always think about the fact that I never want my, I have 4 kids now, even though now the youngest is 16. But I realized that television, like the internet, is forever. It's kind of forever.
It's
It's kind of just out
forever.
there playing somewhere. And I never want to play a role where I have to be embarrassed for one of my kids to come up and go, "Daddy, what was that about? I don't know why you took that part." I mean, every actor is who gets fortunate enough to work regularly, takes a gig here and there where you got to pay the rent, you got to pay the bills and that sort of thing. But I have been very fortunate and very lucky in that regard. And sometimes to my own dissatisfaction. I mean, when I was a lot younger, when I was sort of first starting out, a young actor wants to be able to,
To work.
flex and do all kinds of, different kinds
Hmm.
of roles and different kinds of things. So there were times when, I'd audition I'd go up for, a part in a film or a TV show, and they say, "Oh, you're the lawyer, the doctor." That stuff came later, when I started to get a little older. But initially it was like the kind-hearted boyfriend of the leading lady who, the
Uh-huh.
guy that she let get away, and then he comes back years later. You know what I mean? Nice guy part. Nice guy part.
Uh-huh.
Which is great, because that's also part of what I appreciate in terms of fighting that stereotype. Not every Black man is a menace or a threat.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
but as an actor, sometimes getting to play those parts is fun, challenging, and as I've gotten older now, the stuff I seem to do, like Julius Kane, like the character I did a guest spot on Criminal Minds, where I played a serial killer, which was so much fun. But it was definitely, I got so many people saying, "Don't ever do that again." That was very disturbing, but it was fun.
Your character this season, talk to us about your character this season, and just talk to us
Yeah.
about just even being prepared to come into a consistent amount of people that are excited about a new season of good
Yeah.
writing, because I feel
Yeah.
that's the reason why people have been able to just keep going. CBS has done a
Mhm.
great job with that. The writing is
Yeah.
so good that at any given moment, I could turn on in the middle of the night and watch
Yeah.
something and
Yeah.
get hooked. So let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
Well, I have to attribute all of course, the creation of the characters from the very beginning to Robert and Michelle King,
Yeah.
who are our creator showrunners. They created The Good Wife, and then, of course, when The Good Fight spun off from The Good Wife, they
Yep.
brought several characters from that world, myself included, into this new world, which was post-Trump's election, post-Hillary Clinton's defeat. And the most interesting thing that I've ever heard anyone say about our show was that this was a show that was planned to take place during a Hillary Clinton administration. The whole
A lot of shows were like, yep.
Right. So Christine Baranski's character, Diane Lockhart, was going to be sort of, making her way through a world in an African-American law firm, yes, but in a world where we had a female president and we had, Hillary Clinton's presidency. And so having said that, and that not worked out that way, the show runners, I believe, Robert and Michelle, were sort of thrown for a loop, but that's when, to me, their true brilliance takes over. Because then we are suddenly in this world that, in the world of the good wife, of the good fight, rather. Oh my God, I keep doing that.
The good fight. I know, it's hard.
Right. But the world of the good fight that somehow reflects the real world in the sense that it's all crazy. It's crazy. Hilarious one moment. The next moment, it's deadly serious, and people are getting shot in the streets because of their political views or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And they walk that line so brilliantly, the Kings and our wonderful writers' room as well. And the smartest thing to me that they've done with this show is allowing. We have several writers of color, several writers from the LGBTQ community, writers of a certain age, writers below that age, and particularly on a show like ours, they wisely let those writers have a voice, and I commend them for that. I always commend them for that because I think that Robert King, who always gets the last sort of draft to sort of make sure everything fits. I think that he recognizes, look, I'm not going to write a show that has all these African-American characters that talks about all these issues that affect African-Americans and think that I get it, that I can really understand it. No, I'm going to defer to my young room of wonderful young writers of color who are also from different political ends of the spectrum. So I think what we get to see that I'm so happy about is that the African-American community isn't monolithic in the sense of its beliefs. There are liberals, there are conservatives, there are moderates on both sides of that aisle, there are extremes on both sides. And so it's fun to be a part of that. And obviously, since I'm on the conservative side, it's a different side than what I would be, what my particular beliefs are. But it's gotten to be a great way for me to learn to listen to people with whom I may disagree, because in trying to figure out how to play Julius as a conservative and then as a Trump supporter at the beginning of the show, it became very important for me. I didn't want to indulge in stereotypes. I think every good actor respects his character and wants to honor that character and not play something that's not real or goofy or stereotypical. And so for me, it became a task of sort of finding out what I can relate to with regard to the conservative point of view. And it actually was easier than I thought. I'm from a military family.
Okay.
My grandfathers were in World War II, Korea and Vietnam. My father was in Vietnam. My uncles were all in Vietnam. And so I was able to kind of connect to it in that way, through that sense of patriotism. I always say African-American people are among the most patriotic people in this country. I think we have to be, because we need to see what the promise of the Constitution really stands for, and we really believe in it. Not that it's been applied perfectly yet, but that one day it will be.
Exactly.
And so I tried to base Julius on those men and women who I recall who really did believe in the possibility of the American dream, if not necessarily coming true for them, but for their children. And also from the religious standpoint, my family's from the South. I grew up in the Midwest. So we were Baptists. I would not describe us as conservative, but in the way that religious Southern Baptist African American folks can be conservative. You know what I mean?
I know what
Now,
you mean.
we weren't necessarily voting for Republican candidates, but there is a
there's a
conservative leaning,
belief. Exactly.
right, and so I found myself able to access that part of my care. And of course, I had long conversations with the Kings and with the writers. Well, is this what you want? I mean, they wanted a man, they wanted a character. Since we had never established Julius' politics in the old show, it was kind of coming out of the blue. No, he was just the guy who came in to do whatever the firm needed him to do, and then he was out. So since we had never established that in the old show, I wanted to make sure that I was on the right page with them. And they said, no, we want to see the conflict. We want to see that, yes, you're an African-American man, you're a conservative working at an African-American firm, and that is largely liberal. And so all of that conflict is, and so it makes it a lot of fun, and very challenging.
That's what I was going to say. What did you learn? What have you learned about yourself playing this character? Because the political spectrum is such a wide brush to paint, and you being able to play this character, you're in the mind of him at this point.
Yeah, I did find myself learning things about myself, and there are. Listen, my basic foundation has not shifted, but there are certainly things. I think you learn how to see the humanity in people that think differently from you, as compared to saying, oh, that's a bad person or that's an evil person, because we vote differently. You know what I mean? I certainly was one, and to this day, me, Michael Boatman, I look at certain elements of this administration, many elements of this administration, and I go, how could people possibly support this? But I understand that some people do. So what I've learned playing Julius is to be able to sort of hold off on judgment.
For 5 minutes?
For 5 minutes. Listen, put my opinion out there. I've had the most interesting conversations with folks on planes since I took this part. And now, the last time I flew, God knows when that'll be again, but
exactly.
Where someone will tell me, their views about the Second Amendment. Well, I didn't ask, but okay, let's talk about it. Or if you know what I mean? And so I've gotten to have some interesting conversations with some people I think I would have been arguing with before if I had just reacted, Okay. So it's taught me to sort of look beyond the superficial, and listen, I can only hope that doing this part helps people out there to do the same thing. When I look at what just happened in Minneapolis, and I look at that officer's face as he is kneeling on that fellow's neck, and I just feel like the humanity is denied and lost. And to me, the arts are always a great way to try to reignite that feeling of humanity for all of us. And so in my small part, in my small way, I hope to be able to contribute to that conversation. And I also think that our show does a great job of that as well. We have conversations. We had a huge conversation with 30 Black people in one room talking about reparations, and that happened on TV. You know what I mean? That was amazing. I was not in that scene, but watching that scene was like, where else is this happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. And not everybody agreeing. Not everybody saying we should have reparations. Some saying yes, some saying no. What do we need reparations for? Are you kidding? I love that because that's real life.
That's real life. And that's a conversation that's been happening. Probably this is the most I've ever heard this conversation happen in the last 3 years. So I think that the conversation needs to be had clearly amongst, intellectuals and everybody that's involved, because if you've had any contribution to this country as a taxpayer or as a non-taxpayer, you've contributed to this country. And the history, to me, karmically, if you're not something's going to happen, and it's happening now. So I think that these conversations need to be had. And your character is allowing people to, I mean, I always feel like if you have someone like you playing this character, you're always able to kind of think, I mean, I know it's television. I know they said, you know, lights, camera, action, and cut and check the gate, and that's a wrap. Yeah. But I also know that you might think a little bit clearer because you're seeing the other person's point of view, whether you're more than likely not going to agree, but you might have an insight just into someone's feelings about something. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's really important. I think you playing this character is just such an important role for us at this time, even more than ever. So, do you have any closing thoughts for any of us? I know you can't give us any information about the season.
Well, you know, I'm looking forward to finding out what happens in season 5. So, but like as has always been the case, the actors are usually the last to know. So they keep us kind of waiting around to find out who's here, who's there, who does someone come back? So I'm just sort of sitting here waiting with bated breath, but it's a very exciting place to be, and I'm very excited, and it's just proud to be a part of this show. You know, I always say, you know, I've been a part of lots of shows, and I've been proud of most of them, but this one to me reaches out of the television in a way, or the phone, or the laptop, however you're watching, however you're streaming it. Yeah. And sort of really kind of informs, I think, the viewer about what's happening literally right now, and it gives us a chance to sort of have this cathartic feeling of, okay, I'm not crazy. The world really is crazy right now, and this show sort of depicts that so well. So, you know, just more power, and thank you for all the viewers who've been so supportive, and particularly folks in the African-American community, African-American press have been very, very supportive, and, you know, I'm very happy that come around. So yeah, I thank you for having me and talking about this.
Well, we're really happy to have you, and we will be talking to you probably again, because I'm excited about what's supposed to happen the next season. And I know you can't, and like you said, the actors are the last to know, but thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and stay safe, stay sane.
I will.
Okay.
You too, Shawn.
Thank you, Michael. Bye.
Thank you very much.